Greetings, brothers and sisters. I turned on the news last night. I don't know when I saw this. I don't know when Jake Tapper is on. Maybe at dinner time. Jake Tapper's the guy with the Samba ties, but they're starting to get into JoJo, Magoo, and Hunter Biden a little bit, which shows you that they failed all along because this was a story in 2020 before the election, and they chose not to cover it, right? Which is a way of rigging an election is when the news media doesn't report potential news, and this is real news. Remember, they said it was fake news. They said that the Hunter Biden laptop wasn't real news, and they banned the New York Post from Twitter, also social media. The rooster just went off. Rooster, 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 rooster. What was I saying? And they banned the New York Post from Twitter, so social media also was involved, right, in suppressing the story. But now that they're covering it, New York Times admitted the hard drive was Hunter Biden's, and they're starting to report on some of it, right? And then I have an epic comment. So I covered comments today about my merch on my other channel, the apocalaughsnow channel. Also, I have a video from yesterday about Amber Depp's interview and the Island Boys, which is to me really hilarious. The Island Boys part and the Amber Depp, whatever. So I usually would have put that on this channel, but I had a long 3-hour video about the brighter mind stuff and heartfulness, which is a lingering thing with me now. I'm going to cover that today, and I'm going to address a lot of comments that I specifically asked people not to leave, but they did anyway because, that's the internet. And then this epic comment from a foreigner who is slamming me for my American attitude. But let's first start here with CNN going in on Hunter Biden and his ex-wife here.
In our politics lead, the ex-wife of Hunter Biden, Kathleen Buell, is speaking out about her tumultuous 24-year marriage that ended in 2017. And in a new interview about her memoir out this week called If We Break, she dodged a question about where her personal relationship with President Joe Biden and First Lady Jill Biden presently stands.
We're changing people's lives.
Let's go right to CNN's Kate Bennett. Kate, explain the complicated relationship between the Bidens and their former daughter-in-law and the mother of their grandkids today.
Right. So if we go back to 2017, when Kathleen Buell and Hunter Biden divorced, he went on to have a relationship, or he had a relationship with her sister-in-law, his brother's widow, Hallie Biden, which Joe Biden and Jill Biden blessed in a very public statement.
We're changing people's lives.
All right, I'm going to go to that meme quite a bit because it's just great. But this shows how F the Bidens are. Now, this woman, Kathleen Buell, doesn't look like any prize, right? She doesn't look like she's some wonderful woman or wife or any of these things. Looks a little dour. I mean, don't know her, but I don't think she's spectacular. And she could even suck, right? But there's no way that she's worse than Hunter Biden. I mean, Hunter Biden is at fault for their divorce, right? Hunter Biden was sleeping with prostitutes, using crack cocaine, drugs, maybe doing things that could have been intravenous type of hepatitis risk, bringing in venereal disease into their family bed. I mean, all the things, right? We know the guy had a long history of in and out of rehab, which isn't her fault. Like, she didn't push him to that because he continued it after he had this relationship with his brother's widow, right? And whatever she got out of that, the widow, we know that at a low point, she thought Hunter was going to kill himself, and she took his handgun. He had illegal guns, JoJo Magoo now with his, his policies, but Hunter Biden had illegal handguns, and he had, one handgun that this woman, his brother's widow, took from him because she thought he was going to self-harm, suicide risk. She threw it away in a trash can, left a loaded gun on top of a trash can next to a high school, and a homeless guy took it. and the Secret Service got involved. I mean, that's just one little tidbit from this, hard drive, and that, this these revelations that the Secret Service and the FBI had to go in and clean up Hunter Biden's mess. And so that isn't his first wife's fault. His 8 or 9 times in and out of rehab aren't his first wife's fault, right? And that's what blew up the marriage. And for him to, for the Bidens to endorse this, horrible human being banging his dead brother's, his Joe Biden's dead son's wife, and, that relationship blowing up, and them to dust a woman who, got just a complete raw deal. I mean, they just ghosted her, right? Just tells you everything you need to know about the Bidens. The same way they ghosted his stripper baby, the stripper crack baby that he fathered, that JoJo Magoo's never acknowledged, right? It's still his biological granddaughter, but he's not acknowledging it, right? And I guess the woman was in jeopardy from a previous boyfriend who's like a mixed martial artist that's been stalking her, and he refused to provide something to protect his biological grandchild, which he could because he's the president and they have, Secret Service for family. And so this, this shows you they're just scumbags, right? They're like the lowest of the low. And you can see CNN is now, getting into what scumbags they are. I mean, they told you how great he was. I mean, first they told you in 2015 in that Breonna Keeler hit piece what a horrible, lying, groping, sniffling, snoozing guy he was, right? And then, when he ran for president against Trump, they told you what a wonderful guy he was, and they scrubbed all of his horrible, his plagiarism and his family issues and his crackhead son, and none of these things came up, and they covered up for him. But now, they're starting to turn on the guy because they know he's going down, but, where they got instead Kamala or Hillary, there's nothing there for them. The Democrats have nothing.
Talking about how lucky the two were to have found each other. I'm talking about Hallie and Hunter now, not Kathleen. And how, through grief they found each other and they fully support this relationship. Meanwhile, Kathleen, who had been married to Hunter for more than 2 decades, who had raised his children, who was part of the Biden family, very much held her identity in the Biden family, was kind of just to make that one narrative work, that relationship, that support, she sort of had to drop off. And I think that
We're changing people's lives.
She didn't drop off. They kicked her to the curb, right? They dusted her, instead of embracing the woman that stood by that piece of crap. The guy was also addicted to porn. He's addicted to pleasure. So, he was a horrible husband. I don't even have to, read the book. We know what kind of person he is because he's hedonistic and dark and twisted and, self-abusive and all those things. Like he's like some kind of Satan spawn seed. And, the fact that they haven't covered him is great, but now they are. But what happened was they wanted to embrace this narrative like this was appropriate or okay for Hunter to ditch his wife of 20 years to be with his dead brother's widow, which also was a nasty breakup. And then, he was full out banging strippers, impregnating strippers, and now he's married to a younger woman. They just had a kid. And this guy's an absolute mess, right? And all the dealings he had with foreign companies. And so they took somebody who endured Hunter Biden for 20 years and, raised these kids that are now always with the Bidens. They associate with JoJo Magoo, and she's like on the outs, right?
that, you compound betrayal. There must be a reason she sidestepped that question about that relationship today. She did say divorce is hard. It was hard on the whole family. She gave credit to Joe and Jill Biden for being excellent and supportive grandparents to their children. But it was a very messy and convoluted situation that the Bidens picked aside very publicly.
We're changing people's lives.
And they picked his evil crackhead son, who's, very likely a criminal. Buying drugs and who knows what else he was engaged in. He engaged in criminal activity, but also selling access to his vice president and now president's dad, money launderer, perhaps. They didn't pick the woman who had to endure all that, right?
And Kathleen Buell also went into detail about how she had no knowledge or control over her finances when she was married to Hunter Biden, of course. Hunter Biden, of course, is at the center of a Justice Department investigation into his financial dealings and taxes.
Right. I mean, one of the important points she made in her interview this morning was that she, by choice, did not understand, want to acknowledge, want to be involved in his business dealings and thus their finances as a married couple.
Okay, so she is a lawyer, right? She graduated, she went through private school. She's a woman who came from money in the Chicago area. It sounds like a somewhat prominent family. And she came from money. She worked through various private schools, got a degree in psychology, and now is a lawyer and an entrepreneur and a businesswoman. Okay, she also works in media. And now she handles her own finances, right? And so the only reason that a woman like that, who was, capable and educated, would turn over the finances to her husband is because she was pretty sure he was in criminal activity, and something like this laptop thing was going to happen, and she didn't want to be subpoenaed or charged as a co-conspirator or something, right? So she knew all along. I mean, just think about it. She has a doctor's degree, and she's a lawyer, and she's worked as a counselor, and all these various things. So this is someone who's highly educated, motivated, and all of those things. A liberal Democratic woman who turned the finances over to Hunter J. Biden because she didn't want to end up on the wrong side of Johnny Law.
We're changing people's lives.
She talked about just how deeply she didn't know anything earlier today. We can take a listen to that.
It's embarrassing to say that I ceded all financial control to my husband. I liked the nice things, and I didn't want to think about the cost at which they were coming.
That's great. You mean the criminal activity that your crackhead husband was engaged in, so you could have the nice things in air quotes.
So back to that investigation, she actually said she would be no help to the Department of Justice. She didn't know anything, buried her head in the sand. These are her words. So she's sort of saying, I don't know anything about what was going on with him. But she did acknowledge in the interview today that Hunter Biden is someone who knew he came from a family of privilege and that he had advantages because of that. She didn't tie it explicitly to his business dealings or that he used that name or et cetera. But she did say that, of course, he knew he was a Biden, and that came with all sorts of things. And she said herself, changing her name back to Buell from Biden in 2019 was a huge step for her, just sort of understanding that she no longer lived in this bubble of this political dynasty, this family.
They're still not treating him like they treat Trump, obviously, but they've definitely, and this is them acknowledging that they failed before without acknowledging it. Because Hunter Biden has always been a monster story, and he's always been a huge punchline, as JoJo Magoo was a huge punchline for all of his career. And they put that all on the back burner so they can, create this, whatever it was that, to get rid of Trump and all this stuff. And now it's just, absolute embarrassment for them, which I love to see, because it's almost like they're cringing at, having not covered this all along. Because it was a big story in 2020, and now it's a, lesser story because they failed. They whiffed on this thing, right? This was a career-ending story for JoJo Magoo that they all chose to not only ignore, but do everything in their power to suppress it coming out in every, mode of every platform. But anyways, there's this epic comment I want to get to. So again, I'm getting all kinds of comments. I can't cover them all, unfortunately. A lot of them are hilarious and, everything that, let's just watch. Let's get into this here. So this person, I'm not sure what country she comes from, but it is a woman in the thumbnail. And she seems to have come from someplace in Europe, I would assume. And she says this: "Are you from this planet? ? You do realize people from other countries watch too." Okay, I realized that. I do not know why your channel showed up. Okay, so you suck at articulating. I mean, this is unnecessary, all this stuff you're saying anyway, but she's trying to articulate that YouTube recommended my channel for some reason, and they don't really do this. I don't get people like this, especially from other countries. But for some reason, my channel showed up, my video. And this is a video about Michael Jackson family being exhumed. And so I'm like, why are you so upset, person from another country? Why are you so butthurt, bro? Come on, dude. Let's see, the leader of the supposed to be top country should just turn his back on Russia slaughtering innocent people. And so I'm like, this was a video about Michael Jackson. I don't remember what else was in it. I'm like, why is she even, did she get the wrong video? And then I remembered I was talking about JoJo Magoo because he was in this video as well. And he was trying to weasel out of his responsibility and blame everything on Putin. And so I made, mention for him, pushing this whole Ukrainian thing, right? And, creating these circumstances. It was a throwaway line about JoJo Magoo trying to evade responsibility for creating whatever his part was in the economy that had already collapsed years ago. Now, this person is a normie from some other country, obviously doesn't like Americans, as we'll go through this, and is, somehow butthurt because she thinks I said that JoJo Magoo and the rest of the world should have ignored the war and ignored Putin's invasion of the Ukraine. And, I didn't specify what my point of view was, which I'll do now. And that is if Trump was president, Putin would have invaded the Ukraine. It was the Hillary Clintons and the Democrats who have, had something out for Putin ever since he war blocked Barack Obama in the Syria thing that they were doing, right? Remember, Russia wouldn't let them go and topple another government in this Arab Spring that America was doing, all the wars, all the things like that. I mean, these illegal wars and all the, horrific millions of people dying in all these countries. And, he was nervous, that's what he said at least, that they were going to put Ukraine in NATO, and if then the Ukraine provoked a war with Russia and Russia retaliated, it would be World War III. That would mean war with America because NATO means any country in NATO, if you fight them, you fight all of NATO. And so that was something JoJo Magoo pushed for. And, this is his part in this whole conflict, right? It's it's a much more sophisticated opinion than this riled up dummy that's just, regurgitating her national news. You do realize it's not the only country to step into the war crimes going on. Should America have just stood back and did nothing while the rest of the world took a stand on a lunatic, right? How cowardly that would make you look. No, not cowardly. We've been fighting your wars, and I'm not we, because I'm not a part of this, right? America has been fighting your wars, and this is an American, this is American military giving out, American military industrial complex, giving weapons to countries and fighting wars and defending Europe. That's why Europe has conceded America would have the world reserve currency. And when Trump started back out in NATO, Europe was panicked. You can't say that America is hesitant to fight a war compared to European countries. How cowardly that would make you look. Well, it would make me look cowardly because I don't want to fight any of these wars. I don't believe in them, right? I mean, other than the fact that they're going to happen because of divine reasons, and I accept that, right? Whenever God has plans, like war sometimes comes from a divine necessity, but that's not up to me, right? But I'm not pro-war either frickin' way, and this is whatever it is, right? How cowardly that would make you look. Are you also aware that Putler is Putler is so deranged right now? He's not planning on stopping till he got everything he wanted, and you said just let him. Are you okay in the head? Yeah, I am. Are you okay in the head? I didn't say any of those things, by the way. Yes, the economy was going bad worldwide already due to the pandemic, Okay, so this is just a person that's completely clueless, right? They have no idea how the economy works. They're just regurgitating the news, but quite upset that YouTube recommended my video and, all this stuff. But your last numbnut who sat in the White House sure did nothing to help. No, instead, he had bootlicking sessions behind closed doors with his Russian pal. Just this is a person that's just remedial consciousness, right? And added to the death toll from COVID for just being an idiot and lying, I think you should seek some help not carrying a whole innocent country is being slowly wiped out. It's not my job or America's job or any other country's job to defend other countries, right? They do it based in interest. There are countries right now and people that are being slaughtered all over the world, and America and Europe doesn't give an F about them. Neither do you, right? You didn't care when America was droning children in Iraq or these illegal wars. You just stuck your head in the sand like all these other dopey sheeple normies, whatever country you're from. And why am I even talking to this person? They're watching, and I want to have a discussion. Their comment speaks for themselves. They're not, they're a little bit crazy, a little bit angry, a little bit stupid, and it's always a bad combination. I think you should seek some help not carrying a whole innocent country is being slowly wiped out. Most of us are pretty upset. More is not being done to end this. Let me guess, you like Hitler too? Where does that come from, right? You're going to throw that in there? I didn't, it was like 2 lines. It was I'd almost go find out, what I said in the video. I suppose I could. I'm not going to do it. It's just, I'm, too lazy. But it was nothing. I was just making a comment that JoJo Magoo was blaming everything on Putin and, all the stuff that he provoked and all the reasons that, and again, okay, before we get to, and again, I did go find it, and I said less than I actually thought. And it's hilarious how this person's calling me unbalanced. And I said one small sentence that was, that provoked. Let's go to the videotape.
Gas prices at the pump, energy and food prices account for half of the monthly price increases since May.
Really, that's the direction you're taking this? You're saying Americans already know it's Putin's fault? They're bummed at you. And, you didn't have to get involved with the thing in Russia, but you did. And even if that didn't happen, there would be this inflation, which, I've already discussed here in terms of gas prices. And it really isn't JoJo Magoo's fault for being president, but okay, so that's all I said about he didn't have to get involved with that thing in Russia. That's all I said. And that's true. He didn't have to, right? He didn't have to get involved. I didn't say whether I cared whether he got involved. I didn't say whether I thought he should have got involved. Any of these things. Certainly the economic sanctions was also a part of that. There's a whole thing I could have said, my opinion about this. Not important even now in context of this video. But this woman, this unbalanced woman, heard that I said he didn't have to get involved. That's why I couldn't even understand what she was talking about halfway through the comment. And because I forget what I make, I make videos constantly and I say things or whatever, off the cuff, whatever. There's a lot of more information I could have given with that, but it wasn't the point of the video. She heard that one line, that he didn't have to get involved in that thing in Russia, and that sparked this, long epic comment. This is how unbalanced people are. That's how upset she got, this long epic comment saying I'm like the worst, all these things. That's all I said. This is wonderful. It's like Christmas. This is like crazy European Christmas. The economy, the worldwide economy collapsing and people starving. And when they put sanctions, does this person care about the innocent Russians that don't like Putin, have nothing to do with Putin, who are starving because of the economic sanctions or any of the economic sanctions or wars? Are they crying for the people in Afghanistan because of the, it's just selective because this person's Ukrainian or Polish or something, right? Probably from that region or just a governmental troll or whatever it is, right? Most of us are pretty upset more is not being done to end this. Let me guess, you like Hitler. I'm stunned you said that. You, sir, are everything wrong with America.
How dare you?
Breaking out.
How
You're
dare
breaking out.
you?
It's
How
all right.
dare
Settle
you?
down.
Anything
How
you
dare
want that,
you?
but the bottom
How
line is very
dare
clear.
you?
When you
How
cross
absolutely
the border
dare you,
illegally,
sir?
you
How
have
dare
given
you?
up the
How dare you be so flippant, man?
Well, we say, how dare they?
Why you are no longer respected or trusted worldwide, and that includes your neighbors above. You should see America from the world's eyes. It's not pretty. Well, you should see yourself from our eyes as we're like laughing and mocking you for being like completely oblivious to reality, right? The thing is, when people exaggerate and throw out stuff like, saying that I like Hitler, right? Well, come on. It's just, there was nothing there. The comment was, relatively benign, and you read a whole bunch of stuff into it, got butthurt, got fired up, and left a comment like this, and it just shows you like you're not a stable and balanced and appropriate person. You're just a part of the problem. You're just somebody that needs to be left behind on the scrap heap of failed genetic and social experiment that is the human species on planet Earth, right? And with that, I'm going to end this video. Only spirituality will save this world. It's Paramano, definitely reporting from the Apocalaughs and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.